Hello, Lake County and McHenry County buyers and sellers of properties with septic and wells. I want to talk about something that is very highly misunderstood in our industry. We hear all the time from buyers and sellers. So mortgage lenders typically require when a property on private well and sewer or septic are sold in Lake County, so in other words, they're not on public water, they're not on sewer, that a septic well evaluation is performed. So one thing that I just want to say right away, right out of the gates, is if you're a buyer, be aware that this is a requirement that the sellers are supposed to be producing this septic and well evaluation. More often than not, what I hear from our customers is that they are handed a report at closing and they're finding out in the very last minute, final hour, right before they sign all the paperwork on their house, that there's been a septic and well evaluation. So one thing is, sellers, buyers, I think that it's better if everybody has this information right away, as soon as possible, as soon as that report is produced. These attorneys and sellers have that sent over to your buyer so that your deal doesn't blow up at the last minute. We're in a time period where people are moving with these work from home jobs from all over the country. They may have lived in Chicago. They have no idea what a septic and well is. They don't know how it works. They could panic. They do panic, and they close, and the closing falls through. So you don't want that deal blown up. So anyway, that being said, I would say 4, 5 people who are regularly referred to in the Quad County area, Lake McHenry, Kane, DuPage, to inspect septic systems. And their reports are all very similar in the wording. And the wording is very vague, in my opinion. And part of the reason why is that if I'm performing 600-700 septic and well evaluations a year, I'm getting referred to all the time by realtors, by real estate attorneys. If I'm the guy that's going and I'm failing every single system, I'm really like blowing up all these deals. So, who's going to want to work with the guy that goes out there and says, oh, there's a deficiency. Oh, there's a deficiency. So, I might be raked over the coals a little for this, but it's in the LEHP's best interest to make sure that the deal closes. And that being said, a lot of contractors too that get pulled into the deal by their real estate agents and attorneys are contractors that have a reputation for doing the minimum to make sure that the deal still closes. So that being said, I want to address a few things that you may read on your septic and well evaluation. So they're going to look at the well, and a sanitary evaluation of the property has been completed. They tested the well, and they say that the well was found to be, let's say, bacteriologically safe or bacteriologically unsafe, in which case they recommend chlorinating the well. Not a deal breaker, especially in these situations where there's a deep well. A lot of the properties in the area have these deep wells. There are shallow wells, but if it's a deep well, getting it chlorinated, that's not something to necessarily run away on. They're also going to test and make sure that the well provides a certain amount of gallons per minute. That's the minimum that they've determined is required to make sure that the house has good water flow and that the well is producing enough water for your regular everyday living, which of course you don't want to be in the shower and run out of water or be doing laundry, etc. So on the septic side of things, here are some things that we regularly see. The septic was inspected on June 23rd. The effluent level was elevated above the inlet line of the tank. The system is not draining properly. Okay. What that means is that the septic tank itself is not doing its job. It's supposed to be breaking down sewage. It's not. There are devices in this tank that are supposed to protect the drain field downstream, and obviously something has gone wrong to allow the water level to go up. Another word that they may use is previous signs of high water. So neither of these phrases sound alarming, but as a septic installer and septic repair contractor and plumber, these are major, major, major red flags. A regular, properly performing septic system should never, ever have a high water condition. So then they say, oh, have somebody come out and inspect for blockage. So again, blockage sounds like, oh, there's this minor problem. They can go and rod the septic system and everything's going to be fine. I would say in 99% of cases when that designation is made on a septic and well evaluation, it's an indicator of much larger problems. 1 in 1,000 situations, there may be some roots, possibly a broken pipe, but that is very limited to newer septic systems. So like say a system that's from like 1980, 1985 and newer, and it's not draining, and we know that there's Schedule 40 PVC, we can go out there and say, oh yeah, there might be a problem, kind of send a camera down the line and see what's going on. If it's an older system, it needs to be replaced more often than not. Another one they like to say is no seepage device found. So no seepage device found, in layman's terms, is 50% of your septic system that's supposed to be there is not there. So if half the system's missing, it's not conforming to code. It's not going to work on a long-term basis. You need to replace the septic system. That's another one that's a big red flag. And then again, they'll say contact a licensed professional to further evaluate. Well, if a person who has studied their whole lives to get a degree to do septic and well evaluations couldn't find a seepage device, chances are the contractor is not going to find one either, which means half your septic system is missing. Just disappeared, no seepage device found. So you need a new septic system, more than likely. But again, have somebody evaluate. They will also say the trenches at the time of inspection were either dry or wet. What I see when I say there was a high level in the tank, the trenches were dry, well, the water is not leaving the tank, so the trenches can't get wet, so there probably is a blockage or a collapsed pipe. If there's a high water condition in the tank and the trenches were wet at the time of inspection, that means that that septic system is not performing as it should, will not perform for the longevity of your home ownership, and needs to be replaced. Again, another thing that they like to say is this is located in an area that's subject to seasonal high water. Well, Lake County, McHenry County, Kane County, DuPage County, seasonal high water in your yard means that you will need to have some type of a raised system. In Illinois, raised bed, modified mound, at grade, Wisconsin mound. So that phrase right there, subject to seasonal high water, another red flag. It doesn't mean that it's not working. I live on a system that was built in 1977. I'm sure that they would say the same thing. I live in an area that's seasonal high water subject. It's working. However, again, that's not something to ignore. And then the last thing that I do see a lot is no one was living, or the house was unoccupied at the time of inspection. We recommend a reinspection at 30 days. Okay. So, again, I'm not an attorney here, but what that means is if you buy that house and you don't use the water and you go under construction and you let 30 days pass from the day that you get the keys and you don't call another sanitation inspector to come out and check that system, in my experience, my customer's experience, you've completely waived your rights to recapture any funds if the septic fails at that point. So when it says get a reinspection after 30 days, get a reinspection after 30 days. If you're not living in the house, if the house is under construction, very simple solution, put a garden hose in there, run 300 to 600 gallons a day of water in there. That should all be making it through that tank, out to that drain field, and going down into the soil through the drain field. If it's not going through the drain field, you need to call for a reinspection. If the tank's overflowing, you're getting high water, it's backing up the drains, call for a reinspection. If you don't call for reinspection, you've waived your rights. Another piece of advice for sellers on that note is a lot of sellers, and I think part of it is out of responsibility. They think like, oh, I really need to pump this tank before the inspection. Don't pump the tank before the inspection. It's a major red flag to these septic inspectors. They come out there and the tank's empty and they think to themselves, I wonder why they pump the tank. There must be problems. There must be high water. And then if they look there and they see that there's dried toilet paper in the riser and dried toilet paper on the back of the lid and the tank's empty, they're immediately thinking to themselves, this system is not working and something's being covered up here. You're moving out. You're going to Florida. You're out of Illinois. You're done paying Illinois state or property taxes. Congratulations to you. You're moving out. Your crap does not have to. Leave it right down in the tank so the guy can do his job. Anyway, after all that's said and done, they do have you recommend that you call a licensed contractor to evaluate. Again, I said earlier in the video, but not all contractors are out there. Some of these contractors are out there to get this real estate deal closed. If they're getting all their leads from real estate agents, that guy or those companies, more than likely, they're companies that have a reputation for getting in, getting out, and doing the minimum. And as a buyer, I don't really want them in them. As a seller, I mean, here's the reality, and you know, maybe I'll lose business over this. Septic systems don't fail like one day they're fine, tomorrow they're bad. For years and years and years, things were getting slower and slower and slower, and then you had it pumped out, and then the pumper looked at the tank and he said, hey, you know, Mr. Johnson, your tank looks like it's about time to be replaced. The sidewalls are looking a little thin. Your baffle broke off. You may have had a plumber out there 5 times in 10 years to have it rotted out because it keeps backing up. You know, I mean, these are the kinds of things. This is a lot of times we hear this like, oh, I'm so shocked the system's not working. And that's just not the way that septic systems stop working. It's not like a computer where it's working one day and then boom, there's a virus and it's done. It's a very, very slow bleed and a very slow death. So if you do know that something's wrong with your system as sellers, I think it's so much easier to just fix it ahead of time before you go to sell your house. Do your maintenance. Have your maintenance records, and then if you have an issue with the LEHP, and then a guy like me comes on the job and goes to inspect, you can say, "Oh, Mr. Johnson, look, we pump this tank every 3 years. We replace the line from the house to tank in 2023. You know, the drain field, you know, we had it, jetted or something like that. You know, these types of things are important to be able to tell the seller, hey, we've maintained this septic system. So anyway, buyers and sellers, this is information on what these septic and well evaluations are, what they mean. If you have any questions, feel free to contact us, countrysidesewerandseptic.com, 847-809-2494. We're located right here in Antioch, Illinois, and we're here happy to help. Thanks. Bye.